is an artist talk that's part of the programming for a project that I'm doing throughout the month of June called Uphand. And what I wanted to talk about today is how my work since completing my solo biennials has been focused on symmetry, and also how symmetry relates to my brain injury, how it's kind of all connected to each other. And there will be other talks later in the month, panel discussions really, where people who are involved with the acts of our pans are gonna join us so we can have conversations about the specific acts and our collaborations and things like that, so that you can ask all of us questions. And those dates are on my website, but of course I'll be sending you reminders and things because that's what you're supposed to do. And yeah, so I'm going to start some slides. And so I'll just be talking in the background. But please, if you don't mind, keep your sound on unless I say, oh, this isn't working. Or unless an ambulance goes by, because I would love to hear anything. I so miss doing these in person. Anyway, so let me share my screen, and you guys are awesome for coming. Thank you so much. Some background music. Oh, doggy, doggy. Is that Bean in the background? Which dog is that? Okay. And then slideshow. Okay, everyone go see some pictures? Everyone sees pictures?
Yes.
Excellent. Okay, so I'm on a roll here. So I've always had symmetry in my work. There was a lot of symmetry in my 18-year project, which was the work that I did in the mills. My solo biennials, I had 9 exhibits in abandoned mill spaces, and I'm going to assume most of you know about that because I don't want to focus on that. But these exhibits already had a lot of symmetry in them inherently. There were common threads in all the exhibits, like the number 9 and all the themes connected to each other. And there were sort of mirror image processes as I initiated things and then the audience would complete them. And of course the chaos and order associated with all of that. And there was just one of the things that I tried to explore through my videos was a sort of balance between chaos, order, and repetition. And I've always seen chaos and order as sort of opposites, yin yang, each having equal weight. So there was symmetry in that as well. And there was also symmetry in that the first exhibit was about experience, and then the final exhibit, the 9th one, was about memory. So exhibit and memory, so experience and memory were bookends for the whole project. So there was just a lot of symmetry already inherent in my work. And then after completing my biennials, after I took a rest and had a little bit of postpartum, as I expected, because that's a big project to finish. Of course, I was going to be a little sad. I started working in my studio in the beginning of February in 2017. And I came to explore symmetry, as a focus in much the same way that I came to different concepts for my solo biennials. I start by reading my thesaurus. I like to read my thesaurus. This is the same thesaurus that I've used for over 20 years. And I literally read this for ideas. A lot of my ideas stem from words. And when I was reading this, the word array popped out at me, or an orderly arrangement. And that word led to arrangement, and arrangement led to symmetry. I can't explain how that happens, but that's what happens when I read my book. I think, oh, that's a specific idea I would like to focus on. And sometimes it sparks a whole idea, just the word and definition itself. And other times the word just kind of sticks with me. So I started doing some symmetry kind of drawings just to start thinking about it. Here's another one that I did after I started exploring, just thinking about symmetry in my studio after finishing my biennials. And I also started to think about interactive installations that I could do to explore the concept of symmetry. And one of them was it was an idea called mirror. And I knew after I had this first idea that there would be a mirror 1 and a mirror 2 and a mirror 3. But a bit for just starting to think about symmetry, had an idea for mirror 1, and it's 600 cubes on shelves. This was the initial drawing. 300 of the cubes were black and 300 of them were white. And all the black ones started toward the middle. And I wanted to ask each participant to swap any black cubes with any white cubes so that the piece remained symmetrical. So I had this thinking in mind as a piece I would like to do. And then there was this other piece called array, and I knew I'd probably do array 1 and array 2 at least. But I got this idea from thinking about symmetry as well, and this is still in this idea stage. I normally write out all of my concepts just using words and math. These are drawings that I did after I became disabled, and I'll talk more about that. This is easier for you to see than reading my words. But this is a drawing of array 2. And what it is, it's 2 what I call cube shells. They're kind of like what I wanted to make for mirror 1. But there were two shelves, one over the other, and each can hold 99 cubes. And on the top shelf, there would be 99 cubes that are hand stamped with the numbers 1 through 99. And that's how the piece would begin, and the lower shelf would be empty. And I wanted people to move the cubes from the top shelf to the bottom shelf, placing them in random order. And then once all the cubes reached the bottom shelf, I wanted them to move the cubes to the top shelf in order. And back and forth. And if you were unsure what direction they were traveling, you were asked to choose. And then this was another thing that popped in my head while I was thinking about the concept of symmetry. And I will talk more about this later because it's an idea that gets bigger that I'll talk about in the end. So then, as I was getting used to this new way of working for me, before working on the biennials, I was working to this real stringent schedule and structure, and it was a very, very uber planned way of working that was going to span 18 years, and I was getting used to after that in my studio working without really a plan, just letting ideas come to me as they will, even though they're being inspired by symmetry. It really was feeling like a new way of working for me, and I was really enjoying it. About 5 weeks into that, it was about 5 weeks later, it was the beginning of March in 2017. I started to see very disturbing images in my head, and it took a lot of time to figure it out, and a lot of things were happening to my brain and my body that I couldn't understand. But after 15 months of different doctors that we talked to, and having to be hospitalized in 2 different psychiatric wards because of this psychosis that I had, which would last for 22 months. It was finally determined that the psychosis, as well as the loss of control of my body, was all caused by Lyme disease that I never knew that I had. I never knew I had the Lyme disease, and therefore was never treated. And sometimes untreated or Lyme disease that isn't treated enough can lead to things like psychoses, movement disorders, speech disorders, fatigue, and all these things. But as a lot of you know, a lot of doctors don't really understand Lyme disease and don't know to check for that. So I have some pictures here that I'm just showing you that I picked from pictures I took from when I was sick, because they made me think of symmetry themselves. This is my Princess Leia hat, which has earbuds on either side of my head. And I wore this all while I was having electroconvulsive therapy treatments. It helped me feel safe when I was having the treatments. And I was in a wheelchair for 18 months because I didn't have control of my legs, or I just couldn't get them to move. I lost kind of the connection between the brain and the body. During all this, I became very aware of both sides of my brain. The left and the right, or the right and the left, and I can't tell them apart. But I became very, very aware of the 2 different sides of my brain, and also aware of this while the psychosis is happening, because it was a non-stop disturbing images. It felt like there was an other in my brain that had equal weight to me that was still in there. So there was this sort of symmetry in that as well. And there was also the sense of being either clicked in or not clicked in as this progressed, as I started to get better. So right now I am not clicked in, and it's because I am fatigued from the project I'm doing. When I am clicked in, I can speak pretty normally now, oftentimes completely normally to how I would used to talk. and I can also have complete control of my body. I have come to a place where if it's gonna take a while for me to fully recover from this, I would rather see the projects, the art that I want to make through, even if I have to push a little bit sometimes, and to have some trouble functioning, than to get all the rest that I need and not get as much work made, because I'm an artist and that's my identity. So I have kind of made friends with my brain and the imposter that has sort of that's in there, still in there in a way, that is the effects of the Lyme disease. And there was also like this sort of lack of symmetry that was happening, you know, when I would part of the when my movement disorder was really extreme. Sometimes I was like a rocket. My arms and legs would kick and stuff as if each had its own mind, completely unsymmetrical. I no longer had the ability to move both my arms up at the same time, or, you know what I'm saying? It's all very interesting. So yes. So when I got home from the hospital, and after I had the ECT treatments, and even while I was having the ECT treatments, and while I was going through even the psychosis, because again, that was nonstop for 22 months, I was still making art during all of this. I had a lot of help. In 2018, the beginning, that I received a grant from the Samuel I. Newhouse Foundation, which gives grants to artists with disabilities. And they gave me $10,000, which allowed me to hire art assistants who would come and be my literal hands. And I was able to make, this is array 1, made from ideas I had before, actually made. So these are the tubes over and under. This was installed at Krakow Wiccan Gallery in Boston. And I also made mirror 1. This was at the CMCA Biennial in 2018. So people would move the cubes just like I directed, keeping the piece symmetrical. It was very exciting. And it was fun to see people working in pairs to do it. So they were like, they were collaborating, they were working together, and that was really exciting to me. And then I got more help. Meanwhile, I was getting all kinds of help from people who support my work, and me and my husband just people have been very supportive, who sent us some money just to help us stay in our house, which was really great. But then I got an opportunity to have solo exhibits at the University of New Hampshire, the Museum of Art at UNH. And this is a piece, this was mirror 3. This was mirror 3 at UNH. And I set up posts that have 18 different links. And I asked the audience to move them from this position to the other position, keeping them as symmetrical as possible, keeping them, just creating a mirror image of what was there. And they would move the posts over. And what was interesting was, as you took posts away from the original form, you kind of had to remember what it looked like there as you built the other. So it kind of like transformed in different ways. And I also was able to, with the exhibits, there was a budget, so I could hire more help. And they also had a partner exhibit at 3S Art Space where I made Mirror 4. And I'm so sorry I don't remember the number of cubes right now, but these are 3-inch cubes, and there's 9 different colors, and there's an equal number of 9 different colors. And the piece started so that the left side and right side were mirror images. And I asked people to please switch any color cube with any other color cube, keeping the piece symmetrical. And this piece had a lot of participation. It was just really fun to watch people do this. It was so fun. This was like 54 feet long. And we would just sit and watch families work together as teams. People would just spend hours. They would create. It'd be funny when other people would come in while they're participating and they'd get mad because other people were stepping in on their process. And then other people would be all cool if like, other people would be totally okay if people were participating all at the same time. So, and then some people would do random things. You know, if you're familiar with my past work, I have some rebels sometimes. All my pieces have instructions that you read so you know what it is I'm asking you to do to complete my vision. And some people do the opposite of what I ask, just to do it. And that's, I never interject unless somebody could harm themselves or the physical elements of the piece. But anyways, so like a lot of my work, some people would just move them like randomly. And then the fixers would come in and they spend hours putting it back to where it was, like putting it back on a mirror image. And it was just really great to watch. And then I started to do some more drawings. And, you know, while I was trying to recover, and also while I still had the psychosis, I was trying to do symmetrical drawings again. And I found that with the brain fog, or I don't know, I really had a hard time drawing symmetrically, which I thought was really interesting. Like when I did that more elaborate symmetrical drawing that was earlier, that was much easier for me to make sure each side was doing the same thing. I found as I was doing these drawings that when I started doing these drawings that I often was making a mistake, that it wasn't exactly symmetrical. And then I was like, well, so what? So what if it's not symmetrical? Maybe it'd be more interesting if it's not symmetrical. So then I just started purposely trying to make them somewhat symmetrical, having like something that's off, because it added this element of, okay, what's not quite right here, which I really liked. This was the first drawing that I tried to do, and I had drawn the image on the left side first, and when I tried to draw the right side, when I tried to put the line in, you could see it ended up in a different place. And I thought, well, gee, this is so much more interesting, isn't it? And then I was experimenting with more painting. Like these are a little bit offset, actually. They're not centered around a center. And then I also tried these things where I would dip my hands in charcoal and try to make mirror image marks. And it was interesting how my left had gotten so much weaker than my right and things. It was just interesting.
Interesting.
This was another piece that I was experimenting with, where I loaded up 2 sponges with a ton of black ink and just made these 2 marks starting from the middle and pulling out. I just love these. The fact that I shoot for symmetry, but they're not quite exact. So meanwhile, while I was doing these drawings, my brain injury was inspiring me, and also these drawings, just how things don't have to be exactly symmetrical. I was getting a lot of inspiration from what was happening to me. I wanted to, first of all, I wanted to stop making work that would give more responsibility to my participants. Ideas that had much more expansive participation, that may be really large scale or even expand beyond walls. Ideas that were more durational, that may have interconnected parts or even taking place in multiple spaces. So the first thing I did was I committed to some of the earlier works that I devised while working on my biennials that were too big for my biennials, because I thought, well, I really want to see these pieces happen, and they have symmetry in them already. This piece is called Timeline, and this is, I took a picture of the building 5 space at MassMocha to give this a background, because this is a goal place where I would like this to be. But it's 36,160 white cubes, and each cube is scribed with a different date. The dates span 99 years, including the 24 leap year dates. And they're placed in order on these wings to make a single timeline. And then in the middle, there's 36,160 black cubes in these sort of containers. And the instructions say, when you walk in, please find the white cube that has the exact date you were born. If it's still there, replace it with the black cube and take home the cube that you removed.
Great.
And another piece I wanted to return to, which I also feel has a lot of symmetry, was to make sure, even though this is happening to me, that I still continue my first ongoing project that I devised, that I presented first at Memory. This was a piece, if you were at that show, where I had 99 years of books. At that show, I think it was 1918 through 2016, and I asked people to write their memories in the different books that corresponded to those years. With the pandemic, it gave me an opportunity to present this piece without the exhibit walls right from my studio, so that it could be participated with from anywhere, not just in a space. So I set up Memoir, which is the name of the piece. From my studio, I put bookshelves behind me to display the books, and people emailed me their memories and the dates in which those took place. And I live streamed as I wrote people's memories on their behalf in their books. Mm-hmm. And there was a amazing symmetry moment during this process. I did this in 18 parts for 9 days, doing 2 sets a day or something. I don't quite remember. But there was an interesting moment when I had written in a memory in the book for 1970, there was a mother who was describing losing her son died, and she was describing this memory of something that happened in 1970, and I randomly drew the next memory, which was also from 1970, and it was a mother describing the birth of her son.
Oh,
It was amazing. It was an amazing, amazing moment.
Wow.
And then, you know, in the spirit of, you know, in the middle of devising these larger pieces with that have multiple spaces, I had this opportunity to think of an idea. It was a grant called something like the Impossible Project grant, and all they wanted was you to convey ideas that would be impossible to see through, either because they'd be too expensive or just not big enough a space or whatever. And it inspired this idea, which is called Undoing 5. And this is, I have to read notes for this one, I apologize. But this is Undoing 5. This is a nationwide interactive installation with 331,002,651 1-pound cubes. And the cubes consist of municipal solid waste, or MSW, and it's installed throughout 400 abandoned industrial commercial sites in 400 states, towns, and villages throughout US's 50 states. Each site is about 100 miles away from each other, allowing for as many people to participate in the US as possible over the course of 2 months. So these would be 400 simultaneous exhibits happening over the course of 2 months. Each participant would be invited to take home a single cube, an object that represents 1/1000th of each participant's individual annual MSW from the site that's closest to the participant's home. And then once all 331,002,651 cubes were taken home, then undone 5 would be complete. The amount of MSW taken and redisplayed for each site depended on the area's population. So for example, 11.91% of the 331 million plus cubes, so 39 million plus cubes would be made to be taken home by California participants because they have 11.91 of our population. And because of the geography of that state, there could be 18 sites in California alone. I created this grid over a map of the US so these are all approximately 100 miles apart for the 400 sites, including the ones you can't see in Hawaii and Alaska. There'd be some there too. And so there were 18 places where it intersected in California. But within California itself, they have different amounts of population. So, for example, in LA, there's almost 4 million people in LA, where Bridgeport, California only had 464 people in it. So in Bridgeton, California, where one of the sites would be, there would only be 464 cubes installed at this 1800s historic house on 362 Main Street that I found. So I had all the sites like figured out for a lot of the states, and I didn't get the grant. I think it's because they didn't read my thing. I think they just saw the picture and dismissed it. They're lost because they think it's really cool. Anyway,
Absolutely.
really cool. So they're lost. But what's great about those things that I shoot for, because I don't get all the opportunities I apply for. And it gives me these opportunities to come up with ideas within the framework that I'm giving. And I love those opportunities because it opens my mind. And then another idea that came from this is called Turn 5, which some of you are already participating with, and I thank you for that. Turn 5 is 9 cubes on a shelf, and it comes with 9 books. And there are 36,159 9-digit numbers that are represented in these books. And each of the cubes has 6 different numbers on it. The first cube has 1 through 6. The second cube has 2 through 7. The third cube has 3 through 8, and so on. So the last cube has 9, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And if you were to toss all these cubes up into the air, there's well over 10 million possibilities, 10 million different 9-digit numbers that you can get. But I was only interested in 36,157 of these 9-digit numbers, because I wanted a different 9-digit number for each day of a 99-year span, including the 23 leap year days. I worked with a computer programmer who drew from that over 10 million numbers randomly to make for me a list of over the 36,000 9-digit numbers. Now the tricky part was that I wanted every digit to change for every day. You use the books. It's hard to talk about this without pages. I might point you to my own book. You look in the book to see what days. So say today is. What's today? What day is it today?
Thursday the 10th.
June 10th, 2021. So you look in the books to find the date for today, and that tells you what to turn these 9 cubes to. Philip and Jerry have one in their house. And so the books come with these dates, so you know what numbers to change your thing to every day. And there's 9 books because each book has 11 years of dates in it. And
Wow.
it's a piece that has an edition of 99. I've placed over 40 of these already. I'm looking for 50 plus more participants. But it's a piece that's being interacted with simultaneously in what will be up to 99 different spaces. I find turning my cubes every day to be very grounding. When it's time for me to turn the cubes, I can become very present. And what's cool about it is, if it's a piece that some people have made a ritual for them, while others they turn them when they think of it. What's great is you just look up the date, beyond the ones that if you've missed any, and you have a choice. Do you want to turn the cubes for each of the days that you've missed, or do you want to turn it just to that current day? During this uphand, I've actually missed some days, so that's what I did. I have to turn them 4 times today to get caught up, and I don't feel bad about it because I'm doing it through the day, and because we're probably not each of us gonna live for 99 years. It's a piece that you pass on to somebody, which is very cool. Anyway, that's what the books look like. And then I'm going to talk more about our pen, I think, during the panel discussion, just as far as my work specifically with each act, but I will say that our pen is 9 different acts exploring symmetry and entropy. The entropy being that no matter how much we try to mirror each other or be the same as each other or opposite, we're just a little bit off. And there are 9 acts, and my initial vision with the piece is that this is something that's participated with in person. There's a stage that I want to build that's all interconnected with the seating. The seating maximizes the symmetrical viewing of the piece, meaning all the seating is kind of toward the center. And the participants come from the audience and performers sit down to witness after. So it's all like one big performative interactive installation that the audience becomes part of. But for the purposes of one of the grant deadlines that supported this project, I needed to present a version of the piece by the end of this month. So I decided to do it virtually from home. And which was great about it is I could do kind of smaller scale versions of each act and get a sense of what works and what I felt didn't work as much. But that I thought it's all very interesting, but I think some pieces work really well at this scale and others I think will be stronger in the larger scale that I envision. But I'm really happy with how these the virtual version turned out. And I was able to create this stage right in my studio. And oh, there's Philip. And it's just really great. And now I have like this whole white area in my studio that I can use to present other concepts. And then I know that I've already been talking for 45 minutes and I want to make sure to save some time for questions, but I want to talk about this next concept that I came up with while thinking about symmetry, and it pops back to that flash of an image that I showed you before. This is one of the first things that popped in my head when I was thinking about symmetry, even before I got sick. And I want to mention that the things that I've been showing are really like a sampling of the work that I've created since I completed my biennials. Since I finished those, I've had 9 exhibits, including 5 solo exhibits, all with lots of help. So there's a lot of work that you're not seeing and work that's in production now. But this is another major expansive concept that I feel can have ripple effect even if people aren't participating directly. This is called the Forgiveness Project. This image that you see here popped in my head. I'm on the right and my mother is on the left. I haven't seen my mother since 94. And she to keep a very long story short, we haven't spoken, and I had a very difficult childhood, and she had a very difficult adulthood after a major trauma we all experienced. And we all just kind of, I think she felt like she needed to be away from everything. So she left. I was just married to my husband. My youngest brother was still in high school. I have 3 younger brothers, but everybody was in a place where we could finally get out of a very traumatic environment. So this image popped in my head, and I was really kind of blown away by it on a personal level. And I had realized through work that I had done even before I got sick, like a few years before I got sick, I had done what's called EMDR, eye movement reprocessing desensitization, where I reprocessed the chronic trauma that I had experienced as a child. I had witnessed, my whole family witnessed my father commit suicide when I was 7 years old. And my mother never got treated for what they didn't know was called PTSD then. And her trauma presented as, you know, real violent behavior. And through the EMDR, I was able to come to a different perspective about everything, where I forgave my father in such a way that there was nothing to forgive, and I forgave my mother in a way such that there was nothing to forgive. The hardest part being forgiving myself. And it was a huge, huge thing. And I had even then thought, boy, it'd be really amazing if there was a way I could tell my mother that there's nothing to forgive, and that I hope that wherever she is, that she's found peace and I love her. And for me, as far as the things that I struggle with her, there was nothing to forgive anymore. That said, there's an opposite side to that, where there's things I can never forgive, and it's mostly around stuff that happened to my brothers. It's different when it comes to my brothers. I can forgive myself and I can forgive what happened to me, but I can't forgive what happened to my brothers. So this whole image in my head sparked this idea. So the forgiveness project's gonna be exploring forgiving, not being ready to forgive, and being unable to forgive through collecting personal narratives and portraits. It's gonna present through an interactive exhibition, a podcast series, and a free Finding Public Spaces book, an ebook. I'm gonna collect personal narratives and portraits as I travel from Lyman, Maine to San Jose, California to forgive and ask the forgiveness of my mother, who I haven't seen since '94. As I travel toward my mother, whom I haven't seen or talked to in about 28 years, I will set up artist collection truck tents in 9 different parking lots across the United States. And I'm going to create these discrete spaces, these discrete, comfortable spaces where I can responsibly collect narratives and portrait videos of participants anonymous. I forgave, I was forgiven, I can't forgive, I'll never be forgiven, I want to forgive, I can't forgive that. Stories and thoughts, while sharing my own stories and thoughts about forgiveness and non-forgiveness. There'll be fact sheets, and I'll be on site to be able to answer one-on-one questions. And the narratives and video that I collect, as well as the documentation as I find and forgive my mother, either successfully or unsuccessfully, because I don't know what's going to happen, will all be material for an immersive video installation exhibit that'll give opportunity for the participants to in turn reflect upon forgiving or not forgiving, etc. The exhibit itself will probably have 3 interactive video installations. One of them being, this is like my ultimate goal to create this video installation. This is if I successfully reconnect with my mother. I want to immerse myself for at least 9 days in San Jose to try to reconnect and have dialogue with her and talk to her. And if I'm really successful, I want to create this video work with her. And it's essentially, you stand in the middle and there's sound, and there's video of me saying, I'm sorry. And then it alternates to her saying, I forgive you. and then I say, I'm sorry. And that goes back and forth about 9 times. And then it switches to her saying, I'm sorry, and me saying, I forgive you. And there's lots of like space and time between each, and recording our expressions, and wanting to take the video all at the same time, all in real time, so that we're actually responding to each other. This may not happen, but this is what I saw when I started thinking about symmetry. And my intention, I'm waiting to hear from Creative Capital application to see if I get that funding. If I do, then my trip probably won't be able to happen until 23. But if I don't get the grant, I'm going to do my own fundraising, and I'm going to travel next year because I don't want to put it off anymore. I don't want to, she's going to be in her, I don't know where she is or how she's doing. But I think the piece is important. Letting go of resentment of others and ourselves can be really healing, whether person small or community, world large. Anger and resentment isolates people from each other, and groups and communities from each other. So it's an important project. I'm excited about it. Also scared shitless, but I think it'll be good for me. That's what I'm saying.
Amy. Fantastic.
Great.
So I'm going to stop the share. I went probably 10 minutes longer than I wanted to. I want to save time for questions. I'm totally okay staying on. Did you see how when I started talking about that project, my speech got better?
Yes.
When I'm talking about my work that I'm focused on, when I'm trying to describe a concept, my speech gets clearer. It's a thing. I don't understand it. I get more clicked in. But I can stay on here for at least for like another 15 minutes, and then I'll have to stop. I upgraded my Zoom for this month so that I could talk to you longer than 40 minutes. I'm very proud of myself for figuring out how to do that.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
So I do want to mention something after the questions, just reminders. But does anyone have any questions right now?
I just want to thank you for your generosity. I don't know if you remember me, but I worked on Light, your installation, when I was in Maine that year through my friend Dan Dowd introduced us.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And so I kind of lost you for a while, and then I started thinking of you, and then you started coming back to me, and I have this.
I can't wait.
Got in the mail, and
Nice.
I've just been catching up with you, and I have a lot of friends at the Momentary and Crystal Bridges, and I've sent all your information to them. So I'm hoping they'll support whatever you need support with.
Oh, that's very nice. Thank you. That's very generous.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much.
Well, you're so generous.
That exhibit was in 2008, and
Yeah.
that was at the Sanford Mill. That was the mill that needed the most work to prepare for my exhibit. It took me 3 extra months just to clean and clear it. It had been last used as a paintball business.
Right. It was
And I had to take down all the structure and scrape all the paintball goo. And I ended my back doing it just cumulative using of a crowbar. And I installed for the first month of the installation, I had to install from my back on a air mattress in the middle of the mill. Like kind of, and then I set up a bed in the middle of the mill, and I could instruct people to keep my work being installed. Like I said before, I tend to have a lot of support from people who want to help me make sure my work happens. it was really helpful to have had all the experience that I did with volunteers helping me with my biennials. And I worked with almost 500 people for those shows. It's very great knowledge to have now because I have to delegate in a different way.
Mhm.
I have
Yeah.
lots of practice being a general and asking people and pointing. It's a really good skill to have.
It is.
Does anybody else have a question or a comment? Hi, Jill.
How are you, Amy? I must tell you, Amy, I've been overwhelmed looking at some of your projects since I've met you and just kind of being totally overwhelmed. But your idea for the forgiveness project,
Mhm.
oh my heavens, Amy, that really, I think that it's going to touch everybody who encounters that. It's outrageously incredible. It really is. That's all I have to say. I'm still trying to think about it. But you know, me and my mother problems, I'm just thinking, so brave, Amy. My God. Yeah.
It's been really, really interesting as it has developed, because I literally had that image pop in my head in early 2017 before I got sick, and have since been figuring out how they're expanding and how to reach people with it and stuff. And I'm very excited about my I'll have, of course, give talks about that in and of itself, but I have designed like the truck tent setup, the things that people enter so they can anonymously share their stories in a safe space, like making little kind of making it serene and using the color purple. You know, it's just all these like different things that I, you know, because purple, right? So there's all these different things that that Father has gone into how to respectfully and responsibly collect the information, how to make a space for people to sit for as long as they need to think about what they want to share. The podcast is really about my own journey of traveling west to find and forgive her. It's gonna be an 18-day. The whole thing's like an 18 or 27-day thing, but it's gonna take like 18 days probably just to travel west and do all of those artist connections, and collecting sights and sounds from the places where we set up, and there will be people that are paid to assist for the setup and take down and everything of the lab. It's quite a thing. This has a lot of moving parts, but I know that I can do this because after doing the biennials and then after surviving this, I feel like I can do pretty much anything. So.
Yes.
And that's honestly how I feel. Like I know it's gonna happen. I know it will totally happen. Like I said, I'm either going next year or the year after. With the Creative Capital Grant, you have to do things to a certain timeline. So, but it'd be worth it because it'd be $50,000 plus another $50,000 worth of professional development help and learning how to connect on those higher levels. So yeah, I'd be able to have even more impact with the project with that kind of help. But even with not, I know that it'll be successful and it'll touch people along the way, like you say. And I'm really good at press releases too. So I'll send those everywhere, and maybe somebody will pick up on it and do a story, a nationwide story. That's one of the things that I really haven't broken into yet. Is sort of there's people around the country who are familiar with what I do, but I haven't really broken into that sort of national or international level of where I'm getting like exhibits left and right and things like that. But that's okay because this is my pace right now. Anyway, I get on weird tangents. Is there any other questions right now? Hi, Chris.
Hi, is Harry there? The bedazzled potato?
Yes, this is Barry the Bedazzled Potato.
Barry.
He was first bedazzled in January, and people wanted to see him 6 months later. He has since grown a beard. He's grown a beard since, and he's become kind of wrinkly, and his bedazzle has kind of shifted.
His
I think he's a
He was
little
here.
He's
he's a
still with us.
little wizened. He's become wizened. Is
Yes,
that the right word?
I think it's a lovely word. I love that word. Yeah. So
Thank
there's
you.
more symmetry. Is there any other question?
I just can't believe that it was 2017 when your issues began.
I
That-
know. it was
My
not-
sense
it
of
was not-
time
Before then.
my sense of time isn't very good, but I can't believe it's been that long.
I know.
And you've done so much, in despite it, it's just incredible.
It helps to have a cape.
Yes, it does.
My
The
cape,
purple one.
my cape is violet and it has bedazzle on it. That's gold and red. And there's a bedazzled butterfly on it. And it's very, 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 very long because I have so much support from so many people. It gives me strength to do what I need to do, which is to make this art. This is me. So and I don't mind identifying as an artist with disabilities at all because there's a lot in that, meeting so many other people with disabilities and they are so inspiring to me and I inspired them and that's a whole other family that I didn't have before. And it's just so terrific. Is there any last questions? Chris, do you have a question? Or are you going? Okay, so I just wanted to mention just a few things. My book, I still have a bunch of my books. I have to plug a few things because this is my responsibility. I hope you don't mind. But I still have many copies of my book, Nine Solo Biennials. I actually pulled off finally publishing this in 2020. And it was recently a finalist in the main literary awards for excellence in publishing, which is really
Yes.
great because I published this and designed it myself.
Yes.
Because I'm very fancy. And if you don't have one of these yet, I sell them from my website, which of course is amystaceycurtis.com, because why would it be anything else? And then I also have 50 more sets of turn 5 that I'm trying to find participants for. So it doesn't, so you can join any time because there's 99 more years of this. So you have plenty of time to join in. And there's information about how to do that from my website as well. Right on the home page, there's a button you click for turn 5. And all of the acts, if you haven't seen them all, for offhand are also accessible from my website. And I will be doing 3 more talks around offhand, more specifically about offhand, that are basically like like, I guess you'd consider them panels, where I'm gonna be joined by the collaborators who were involved with each act. For example, Philip Castle, who's here with his wife Sherry. He was the composer for acts 8 and 9. He also learned how to play his cello with opposite hands, which I think is just the coolest thing.
Wow.
And he wrote this amazing music, and just the music itself on the paper
Yeah.
is so stunning. How music looks, music notation looks. I have no idea what it means, but it's gorgeous. That's what the picture looks like. So all those dates for these next Zoom panels are also on my website, and I will of course be sending reminders. I'm also hoping that people will follow me on Instagram and YouTube, because I need more help there. I think I've said everything I'm supposed to say. I really appreciate you being here from wherever you are. And this has been really, really great. And it's been really nice to see your faces.
Amy,
Yes?
I just wanted to say that over the course of the past, 13, 14 months, this book has been something that really, really, enriched my days and my thinking. So yes, you deserve a big prize, not just for the book, but for everything.
Thank you so much.
Should we clap? I don't know.
Yeah, let's clap.
I like Zoom so much better. Presentation so much better having the sound on. I wanted to try it.
Good. Yeah.
It works pretty good with not too many people, I guess. And
Yeah.
there's a puppy.
Somewhere.
There's a puppy.
Oh.
Clapping.
Thank you so much, everybody. This has been really great.
Thank you, Amy.
Thank you.
Thank you, Amy.
Bye.
Absolutely brilliant.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We'll see your face again soon, I hope.
Yes.
Yes. Meg.
Bye.
Bye.